Much like every other horror YouTuber in existence, we've seen Alien Romulus. We could start there. That's the probably the big popular one that hopefully the rest of YouTube will have exhausted themselves talking about it. And here we can swoop in and pick the bones clean.
Yeah, and let's see if I can present. I'm going to present. Let's see if I can do this.
Hit the present button. You double click. You right click. Right click.
This technology. Oh, see, it's right there on the screen.
Yes, there it is. Look at that. StreamYard.
Guys,
every penny.
The $100 a day we pay for this out of our exorbitant budget, this is what we can do.
I've gone without meals, which is terribly, terribly dangerous for a pre-diabetic like myself.
So usually with these episodes that for Bits and Checks, we kind of keep it to a short 30 minutes, but we can run over. We have no certain time limit. We can talk as long as we want, go off on tangents, and please, we're not as focused with these episodes. So with that said, Clay, you wanted to start off with Romulus.
Romulus.
You want to start off with Romulus.
Alien Romulus.
Romulus.
Yes. This is the much anticipated and long awaited sequel to the iconic space horror, comes to us via writer and director Fede Alvarez, who I've been a big fan of since the Evil Dead remake, however you want to consider that one. And he also did Don't Breathe, 2 films that I quite enjoyed. The film stars Kaylee Spaney, David Johnson, Archie Renault, Isabella Merced, and Spike Fern, and Eileen Wu, who we see in the poster art has a thing attached to her face. And we know from the trailers that she dies immediately, which isn't a spoiler because they show us that in the trailer. They showed too much in the trailers. That's one of the big complaints I had about the trailer.
Yeah. So the art, the cover art, of course, the theatrical art here. So yeah, I would consider this, out of the trilogy I have up on my screen, this is the good. I'm not going to say I thought Romulus was perfect.
No,
I thought it was a fun film, and but let's start off with, what do you want to start off with in regards to Romulus?
Well, I was excited to find out that Fede Alvarez was going to direct the next Alien movie. I was surprised. I was like, I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, oh, this is wild. It's like you got a guy that excels at, putting fun twists on standard tropes of young people getting into predicaments that they should have avoided.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that the characters were dumb, because they were put in this position out of a sense of necessity for getting out of the squalor of their lives. And so I was surprised that Fede was kind of picked to helm this film.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised too. I really enjoyed the Evil Dead reboot that he did, remake. I got into an argument with someone on Threads about what was there a difference between a remake and a reboot. I don't think there's that big of a difference, but anyways, fantastic Evil Dead remake. I loved it. It was great, gory, bloody. Yes. And I'd seen his other films up to this point, not all of them, I don't think, but when I heard that he was going to helm this, I was really excited, because Alien is one of my favorite franchises. Despite its flaws, we can all agree that the first 2 were just masterpieces on their own. I'm sure there's mixed opinions on 3 and Resurrection and the Prometheus chain, and of course AVP. So,
well, I've heard that the director of Alien, who I should know, but
Ridley Scott.
Yes, it's who could ever forget? I've heard that he didn't like James Cameron's approach to the second film, that those 2 were kind of at odds about the direction. So I've always thought that was kind of interesting. But this film is nestled neatly between those 2 movies. And what can you really say about it? Like, all of the criticism is valid, but I loved it anyway. The CGI character was kind of patently terrible to look at. You got used to it, but it was done respectfully, but you can't help but kind of feel like oof when you first see it, and then it keeps going, and you accept it, but you never really learn to love it. That's kind of the way I approach that character.
Yeah, and I think if we're going to start off with that would be a flaw of this movie. By the way, there's going to be spoilers if you don't know that by now. You know, it just I think
you haven't seen it yet.
I think most people have seen it who's going to watch this. So
yeah.
When we see that character, there's some other things that I thought were unnecessary. I don't know if that was Fede's artistic choice to do this. You know, where they put an actor, Ian Holm, who played not Bishop.
Ash
played Ash in the original. I don't feel that should have been a thing. I think that was just fan service, and really the fans didn't like it. And
yeah, across the board, people were pretty about it.
Yeah, and it just I can understand them trying to say, okay, yeah, you know, these are replicants, these are synths, these are, you know, we make multiple copies of the same one to work on different ships and things in a scientific capacity or a maintenance capacity. So I got that from it, but it was off-putting to see Ian Holm's face and caricature in a CGI AI kind of
yeah, and yeah, I hated it when they did it in that Star Wars movie, that Rogue One with Peter Cullen's character,
Peter Cushing.
Peter Cushing, yeah. Golly, I must have had a small stroke. I can't remember iconic actors' names. Yeah. I hated it in that movie. I hated it a little less in this than because it's an automaton playing an automaton, but it is a big wart on the movie's nose. He consulted the family. He asked their permission. It was all done as respectfully as you could. I wish that they had done the same thing, but just had it as a prosthetic instead of CGI, because the bad CGI is what kind of pulls you out of it. I think it would have worked better if he was just a mangled, messed up puppet, because then he could have been all puppet.
That's a good thought. I thought, you know, maybe instead of just doing like the full face, you know, maybe half the face is gone, but you could still kind of tell that it was Ash's or Ian Holm's face. But you know, we can't go back and rewrite the film. I thought they did a nice mix of the individual alien horror from the first one and the action alien from Aliens. And
it definitely had some nods to our favorite stealth horror game, Alien Isolation.
Oh yeah,
Alvarez was a big fan. You could see the save points in there. So
I always said about that when I saw the save points, and I was my wife was sitting next to me. I was like, oh, "That's from Alien Isolation. That's from Alien Isolation." And then I was just like, "Why didn't they just save? Why didn't they just save and before going that dark hole?" Then
because they're going to lose all their progress. It's like, dude, you're way dialed in, you know. But I mean, we enjoyed it. My partner is an even bigger fan of Alien than I am. She saw it, the movie, at a very impressionable age. Her dad took her when she was like 9 years old. Way too young to be seeing such a movie, but she was so pumped for it that when we had tickets for Saturday, and I offered to go again on Friday before, and so we saw it twice in less than 24 hours. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. Can't wait to have it on Blu-ray. It's a flawed movie, but horror movies thrive because of their flaws. It's you'd almost kind of expect it to be a little bit janky here and there.
Yeah, and I think it's the flaws. I mean, the Romulus has its flaws, and I think one of the bigger flaws is like with the notion of prequels and canon and lore being introduced between movies that were written and shot 40 years ago. It's tough to kind of juxtapose the new stuff that we find in Romulus. Why wasn't introduced in like Alien or Alien? Well, because it takes place after Alien, but before Aliens, right? So they shoehorn in like Ridley Scott's black goo from Prometheus, and I guess the get out is like, well, the whole space station, again spoilers, crashed into this, these comets, so it's all gone. So they try to tie it up with a bow. He showed interest in doing an Alien versus Predator. I think that might be kind of a cursed franchise at that point. But I think, off in a little tangent here, I thought the Alien versus Predator, when I first saw the first one, I thought, okay, it was fun, whatever, because I wasn't really obsessed with the canon, and this doesn't fit in it. And then when I saw Requiem, I was like, okay, that was cool too, because there were some cool kill scenes. Yeah, it wasn't the best, but total popcorn movies for sure. um, continuing, like, I walked out of Romulus loving it, but at the same time annoyed with the fan service. There are lines, there were shots taken that were literally lifted from Aliens and Alien and dropped in the movie, and the actors just kind of repeated what the actors in the original movies did. There's the scene where, you know, the guy is showing the heroine how to hold a rifle and how to load it, and it's that same scene between Hicks and Ripley in Aliens. And you know, these are you know, people who aren't really that fan of the movies or don't really pay that much attention may have not noticed, but these are shot for shot lifted, and I thought that was very annoying. I thought the fan service with the bitch line was like unneeded and uncalled for, and I just rolled my eyes in the theater and was just like, come on, dude.
Oddly, that did not bother me, probably because I enjoyed that character so much. That line was delivered by the synthetic character, who's hands down the best character in
Andy.
this movie. Yeah. Andy, he was great. You know, I really liked him. You know, I enjoyed it, and I'm excited to see what Alvarez does next.
Well, you know, let me just jump off from bagging on it to saying what I really dug about it. Cool. That I really enjoyed the additional world building that we see, especially at the very beginning when you see Weyland-Yutani has a boot on the neck of workers. That, you know, these people are trapped in their situations, their loved ones are dying, and it's a hopeless situation. And it's like, when capitalism goes full scale, unregulated, this is balls out what happens. You know, you may not say, hey, they still get paid for the work, but, you know, indentured servitude wasn't considered slave labor either, but it technically was.
It's a great motivator to get you on the side of the characters. And, you know, like a lot of film reviewers were like, oh, they're dumb kids doing dumb things, and then they get in trouble doing it. But I you know, like their impetus to do this was out of desperation. Yeah. So I related to them, and I liked all the performances. I thought the film was really well cast. Even the, you know, like even Miss Wu, who didn't have much screen time, I thought that they did a good job kind of telling you a little bit about her character right before her chest explodes.
I thought Rain, the character Rain, played by Kaylee Spaney.
Yes.
I was a little iffy on her at first because I was like, you know, she doesn't have that, you know, to me, Ripley, Sigourney Weaver embodied like total, you know, it was a leader. She was a powerhouse. In Alien, she was like, quarantine measures. Well, I'm not letting that person on, you know, until he's fully quarantined. You know, she was I don't think she was a science officer, but she was had a commanding lead. And I thought, is Rain is this Kaylee Spaney going to be able to keep up and portray that? And I don't think she did. I think she played it her own way, and how a strong female lead should, I guess, in her way. I don't know. I'm kind of explaining it weird. What I'm trying to say is I eventually fell into what she was doing, and she turned out to be spectacular. And she totally sold me. And the guy who played Tyler, Archie Renault, his reaction to Andy not opening up the door for I think Kay, who was pregnant, you know, and he put all this emotion, and you felt that emotion that Andy was not relenting. He was not opening this door. He was doing it for the good of the company, I guess, but also, you know, not to kill everyone, but at the same time, you feel the frustration in the humans. So I love the acting. I love where they were going with a lot of the story aspects. I thought the aliens were fantastic.
They look great.
They look so good. And the transition, how they kind of showed the transition of how the baby alien goes from that and gestates really quickly into the adult full xenomorph. So
into this big vaginal opening in the wall. It was dude, it had a lot. And you know, like, it was kind of funny. They said there's people are going to be divided on the finale of this movie. And at the time, I wrote on a piece of paper and I put it in the drawer in our just like in our coffee table. I said, this is what's going to be the ending. And I wrote this on a piece of paper. Just remember that piece of paper, and it said alien human hybrid on it. So I was kind of close. I was an engineer human hybrid.
Well, if anything, this movie really kind of pulled lore and canon from all the movies. And some were more subtle than others, and I really appreciated that too. I love that they're kind of incorporating that stuff into there. So, yeah, the alien, the alien is. I didn't predict it at first, but when Kay uses the black substance because she thinks it's going to heal her or maybe save her baby, that and it's like
no, you're gonna have a little Easter Island headed baby.
So Alien Romulus totally thumbs up, despite its flaws and some of the weird things it decided to do with some of the fan service. Totally enjoyable. Looking forward to picking it up.
Absolutely. So do we want to let's go with the one that we're going to lay into the hardest last. Do you want to do Arcadian next?
Let's do Arcadian. So this is the ugly for me.
Can we need to share a picture here. How do we do this?
Okay, so now that we're back on track here, let's see what we're talking about. Arcadian. So Arcadian is a movie by director Benjamin Brewer, the writers Mike Nealon and Nyland, and it stars Nicolas Cage, Jaden Martell, and Maxwell Jenkins. It was released this year, 2024, and Arcadian is another in the line of Nicolas Cage horror movies that he's kind of written, and I believe there's a writing team or he's friends with people that are just producing these scripts particularly for Cage to star in and have a vehicle.
Definitely plays to his strength. And the movie, what made me laugh about it is that there's plot points. You can tell that it was specifically written to have him, come in there, be as cagey as possible, be as Nicolas Cagey as he can be, which kind of draws you into the movie. And then they figure out a way to write him out.
Yep. I was about to say for a little bit longer. Like the last half of the movie.
And then he comes back in glorious fashion to, deliver justice to these demons from hell that are spewing out. Now, this wouldn't work if the rest of the cast wasn't strong, and they were. The two actors that play his sons, I thought were really good, as was all the rest of the supporting cast. I thought that they were pretty good. It's a very kind of standard trope these days. It falls into the Quiet Place kind of thing.
Yeah, so you're looking at an apocalyptic situation, a la A Quiet Place or I Am Legend, or the lone survivors, hell, even Walking Dead, things like that. Where it's not exactly something new, and I'm not sure if they really do anything new in this film. There's some interesting ideas, I guess, but I think I just don't think it. But I was entranced at the beginning. Because I thought, so what we see at the beginning is Cage's character, like 15 years before the movie actually takes place, the full story takes place. He's walking and wandering through, you hear sirens and helicopters and like explosions happening, and the city's on fire. It's like a Quiet Place Day One kind of feeling. And he stumbles across these two babies, literal babies in swaddling clothes, just kind of lied out next to each other. And I was just like thinking, well, he didn't even really check to see if there are any parents around. Maybe they're just going to get some water, but it looks like he just picks up these babies and takes off with them.
Well, that's interesting that you read it that way. I was assuming that he was their dad and that the mom had died and that he had to go out and get supplies and then come back to take care of the kiddos.
I thought it was like one of those situations, like what movie was that? Norwegian movies where the cop finds the baby in the graveyard and decides to.
That's our favorite. Our favorite.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name of it.
So I don't think it was actually not really explained. It didn't have to be explained, really. It could just be just two babies lying around.
Nicolas Cage is that much of a hero that he just scoops up rando kids.
So so we don't really know what's going on, what's happening. You just know something's going crazy. He grabs these two kids, and then it just jumps 15 years later.
That's some stellar storytelling.
Yeah,
but I enjoyed it. It was what I liked about it were the monsters. I thought were a pretty good payoff. I really like the monster designs. These things don't look like they came from anything biological or anything that science could explain. They don't behave or look like anything of this world. They had a very demonic look to them, which I liked. It kind of harkens back to Critters a little bit for me. Like at one point they form this big homunculus wheel of these creatures connected to one another, and just it spins like a big wagon wheel. What I like the performances. It was it was a lot of I don't want to say padding, because it was compelling storytelling to me. Is all the survival stuff, how they have to, like you have to get in before nightfall or you get eaten to death.
Yeah, it's a movie that I did have to suspend some disbelief on certain scenes and certain pieces of plot. I will say I wasn't endeared to the creature design as you were, mainly because I just didn't get a clear picture of them. It felt like the cuts were really quick. The little yapping thing was cool. I didn't know. It felt like they had just messed up in the fast forwarding of it, and so they messed up in the film, and they're like, "Oh shit, we can't change it. Let's just keep going."
Well, and I'm sure that audiences are probably about as split on those creatures as we are. I could see how I liked them a lot. I could see how somebody wouldn't. I could see how they would want the movie to be a little bit more grounded, with maybe something that wasn't quite so fantastical. Like these things make the Quiet Place aliens look reasonable. They're just their proportions aren't right. They have faces on the front of their heads, which sounds like, I don't know how words work, but if you see the design, that's how it looks. It looks like they almost have painted faces on the front of these really ugly, misshapen heads. They look like moles from hell. Like I think the apocalypse was the hell mouth opened, and now they have to contend with hell's denizens spilling out into the earth.
They look like mutated rabbits from like Donnie Darko or something to me. So I don't know if it's my old age, but I find that I'm getting tired of movies just kind of thrusting us into situations where you just have to accept what's going on. There's some reasons, like the reason I like A Quiet Place so much is that they, you don't know the aliens' motivations. You don't know why they're there, but you do know that they're aliens. You do know they're coming down and they're wiping out everything in their path. That's fine. I get it. That's cool. Arcadian just kind of bypasses all that. They try to allude to it between the love interest of one of the boys with one of the neighbor girls, where they kind of have like these storytelling sessions on how they think it started and where they think these things come from. That didn't make too much sense either. It was kind of ridiculous stories from both of them.
Yeah, and it was just a way to kind of bolster the relationship between those two characters more than a way to kind of give us any substantive backstory.
Yeah, there's some things I just kind of scratched my head on where it's been 15 years since these things have been taking over the planet, and we see signs that they have to board up the people who are still alive have to board up their homes before nightfall, and then they can constantly hear the attacks outside. And why the aliens just decide, or aliens or demons, whatever they are, just decided at that moment to dig under the houses when they've had 15 years to get around all these defenses, and now they just figure out after 15 years, oh, you know what? We could just burrow underneath the homes and they'd come up from beneath in the basements and get them that way.
I want to helm a alien invasion movie where they're just a colossal inconvenience. They're not violent. They're just sloths. They're like sloths. They just eat up. They stink. You're constantly maybe an alien scat, but they don't. Otherwise, there's no real threat.
Maybe it's like an It Follows kind of alien feature where they're all just like walking and you keep looking at them and getting closer to me. Okay.
They're just people carrying on with their lives, stepping over these slumbering aliens that you can't even eat them because they don't taste good or they're poisonous or something. It's just a big problem. It's not really a compelling or scary movie, but I'll punch it up.
I think there's other little things I had to, again, I may just be nitpicking here, but we see one of the brothers who has to run home desperately every night before sundown to get home, and he's always hanging out this farm that's nearby. And for a couple of scenes, we see him leaping this chasm this deep chasm where it goes down. I mean, you don't see the bottom as he's jumping across this thing, and then that one night he leaps and takes a misstep and he falls. Oh no, he jumps, catches the side, but then he falls backwards into this chasm, and he pretty much just gets up and brushes himself off, and he's like, okay, I guess I'm in a chasm. And that was like, he has no broken bones, no concussion. I mean, just knocked the wind out of him. I would expect a little bit more pain and suffering from falling.
It was almost
25 feet.
Yeah, it was almost like, and you're right, that's totally valid. It's almost as if him being injured was an inconvenience to the plot, so they just had him be okay, which is kind of,
and there's some of the weird film techniques where I just didn't understand where we were at the time when Nicolas Cage's character comes down into the ravine. It's like, how did he know how to get into the ravine? Why doesn't this kid know how to get out of the ravine?
How do you know that that's even where he was? It was.
There's just some disbelief things I wasn't disbelieving. That said, it was an entertaining movie. I thought the performances were great. I just laughed out loud once they knocked Cage out for pretty much the last quarter of the movie.
Oh yeah,
and you can see the character's just literally dragging his body, and he's just like taking a nap.
I know, it just wakes up out of getting just jacked up horribly, like just wakes up like Christ, and then just snatches a firearm and just has his heroic moment. It's like, okay, it's like, I'll be in your movie, but I gotta first of all, I have to take a nap through half of it so that I can star in another 2 movies, and then I gotta have a hero scene at the end. I gotta just totally shoot more bullets than a shotgun can hold.
Right. So this is a collaboration. So the writer Michael Nyland is Cage's agent, manager, and producing partner. Arcadian and the other not all the movies that you see him in, but they're all very closely linked. So
I mean, you can close your eyes and pick a Shudder movie at random, and it's going to have Nicolas Cage in
it. I will say I enjoyed the hell out of A Color Out of Space, and
Oh yeah, I like Mandy. I like. So you could do worse. I'd probably not the most glowing endorsement, but you could do worse. Shall we move on to? Let me stop. Hold on. Stop screen. Let's go to. As you can see, I'm very good at this. There we are, and let me just find that neato key again on my wireless keyboard. There we are.
Hey, the Night Swim.
Night to Swim, which you can watch for freezies if you've got a Amazon Prime subscription, which is about as much as this movie's worth, but I digress.
This would be the bad of the trilogy here for me. Now I fully apologize for this, Clay, because I did say, I wrote Clay a message. I was like, I'm curious about Night Swim because, I thought it was going to play on some childhood fears, right? Where you're in the pool, and for those of us who had access to a pool, then if you swam at night, there's this eerie, especially if you're out there alone or with a friend, there's this eerie thing that you think something's beneath you, like sharks in a pool.
Yeah, it's a common fear, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's what I thought. I was like, maybe this is kind of playing on those common fears, and we're going to see something similar to, those childhood fears. And I remember I think we watched it around the same time because you're like, I'm watching Night Swim now, and it's like, I just started too, and then I remember apologizing to
each other. Oh, well, you didn't direct the goddamn thing.
I know. I was like, I'm so sorry you had to watch that.
And shit. I mean, it's like if we're going to start apologizing for watching shitty movies, it's going to be a long life because we've watched plenty of them. But so the film about a murderous swimming pool was written and directed by Bryce McGuire, and big shocker here, it's his feature film debut. This this was based off of a short film, so I've never seen the short film. It probably held up a little bit better than a full feature, but you could feel the fat on this thing, and it was just it would have almost benefited by being a worse movie, like if it had just kind of been like just totally stupid, like The Room level kind of. ineptitude, but it wasn't. It was
Right.
just competent enough to where it was criminally mediocre is kind of the way I would describe this film. It was done competently. The actors did what they could with the dog shit script, but it was pretty bad. I mean, they had nothing. Have you ever heard Patton Oswalt's bit about like Death Couch or whatever that bit is? There's this movie called I think it's called Death Couch, the couch that eats, or the bed that eats, deathbed. It's the bed that eats people.
Okay.
And this is the pool that eats people. It's a haunted pool, and it eventually gets around to, you know, harassing people, not killing them, just harassing them. It shows you some bad CGI. It interrupts a sexy game of
Marco Polo.
Marco Polo.
I was hoping we see all the fun swim games be rammed into this movie. Unfortunately, we just saw Marco Polo and a chicken. There were others like sharks and minnows, or whatever. But
yeah, I mean, if you're going to make a murderous swimming pool movie, you've got to go for broke. People have to get impaled on pool noodles. You need somebody getting a pool skimmer just shoved right up their tuchus and out their mouth.
They're jumping on the diving board, and it suddenly breaks, and they get impaled underneath the water.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, why didn't they talk to us? Like the broken diving board goes through the air and cuts 3 people in half, and it's just an utter, like, it would have to be, first of all, filthy. It's a pool. Why would you? I mean, people
not only
dipping.
Not only is it just a pool, it's a pool that's fed from a natural spring. Which is unusual. I know there's like pools that they used to use back a long time ago that would be fed like that, but that's one of the reasons they make here for the pool being haunted. So one of my biggest gripes about this movie, Clay, is that it is full of just tropes. There's nothing. I mean, I always complain about nothing new. That everything was predictable. All I could see was Amityville, but stupider. And and where the main dude is enjoying the pool. He's got MS, but somehow the pool is healing him, so he's having a great time with it, and he's getting possessed by the pool, and eventually he roids out and gets fucking pissed at his family, a la Amityville. And then you see the usual shit like I gotta track down on who this house belonged to. I've got to do my research on and find the other owners, and you see the wife going out and doing everything that every other movie has done, hit all those same beats, and I was just like, oh God, dude.
I was so stupid, dude. And I mean, like, she comes to the conclusion that the pool is haunted with literally no evidence that would compel you to come to that conclusion. It's just like, we've just been having bad luck here, man. I mean, you got MS. He had a spasm in the pool, nearly killed one of the neighbor kids, and they reacted to it in a typical dipshit way. Like anybody reasonable would be like, wow, that was messed up. Maybe you shouldn't go near pools with that MS. But
right.
You're like, you're alienated from the town. It was such dog shit writing. And I remember as we were going into the movie going, what are they going to do with a haunted pool premise? And the answer is not much.
Nothing at all, dude. This is the haunted pool premise was probably one of the stupidest premises I've ever seen put to film. And we've seen Veronica, and this is like, there were no rules to the pool. I mean, just there were no. Apparently, the pool could do shit outside the pool. So, what was the point of even the pool being there? Because people were possessed when the wife goes to talk to the previous owner. The owner's obviously still possessed by the pool, and she doesn't even fucking live there. Hadn't lived there for 15 years. And
I tell you, man, that pool possession, it's hard to shake.
And then you have such great lines when the father is finally fully possessed and he's chasing his daughter through the pool and around the around the house, he utters such genius lines as Marco, and she runs, and he's like, you didn't say polo, and I'm like, oh, genius.
I mean, it's like we're writing a better pool movie by accident, making fun of this turd. Like, okay, think of the pool rules that you saw as a kid. No running. So, you know, like, okay, duh, lifeguard tragically dies, angry lifeguard ghost, and somebody runs, they get killed horribly. No diving, and then they get bent in half diving. No having sex in the pool, and then something bad happened. No one got caught in the drain. No one got killed by the filtration system. It's just, these are obvious
pool deaths that should have been put in to fool everyone, going, wow, there's a lot of people that's died in this fucking pool. You know, let's conduct an investigation. You know, it's so silly. And one of the things I really, really hated about this was when they tried to explain why the pool was, you know, because the first thing they tried to say is like, oh, it's a spring that's derived from water that was magic water. They literally say magic water in the film. I'm not fucking lying. And that is from the First Nations people. So they're trying to blame the shit on First Nations people yet again, a la Pet Sematary and any other film that wants to blame any magical shit that fucks white people up. You know, it's blame it on the Native Americans. You know, I really felt that was dumb. It was just a dumb go-to. There's so many more original things you could have done.
It's so fucking weak. I mean, and whatever, like the tragic, I can't help but think about this every time I watch a piece of shit movie, is think about how much money just even a dumb low budget horror movie costs. It's probably more than most people can save in a lifetime. Yeah. So it's like you've got something that represents vastly more than what most Americans will amass in their whole entire life to make fucking Night Swim.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like the cast was great. I mean, I felt they all. I mean,
they were all right.
I liked him. I liked the guy who played the father. I thought he did a okay job. But I think they did. I like
the daughter.
Yeah, she did a great. I guess the little boy Elliot was rough. It's kid acting, but I can't. You can't blame the actors though. You have to blame it on the writers and this. It was just. It's just full of tropes and dumb shit that you've seen a million times before, but amped up to the nth degree.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, it's not even so bad that you can have fun making fun of it, because they don't give you anything in that way either. It's just so bland and just tepid, mediocre mucus of a film. It just really, really sucked. But Night Swim.
Night Swim. Boo. Boo this movie.
Night Swim.
Boo this movie.
Night Swim. It shit the pool. That's the headline.
See, we're already. Oh man, you should just come out to Hollywood here, and we'll just rewrite movies, dude.
I'm sure no one else has come to the beautiful state of California with the same lofty goals.
No, there's no one out here. Okay, well, I guess that's it. That's our 3 movie. You got the triple decker here.
That's it.
We pounded you with Romulus. We got a little floaty with Arcadian, and then we just totally sank to the depths of the deep end with Night Swim.
Perfect. That was great, dude. Yeah.
Thank you. I didn't even have that written.
Yeah, let's just edit out the rest of this and then just cut that part in, and then it'll probably be not even long enough to be on YouTube. It'll be a short. We'll make it a YouTube short.
We'll just make it a YouTube short and get millions of views on it with people telling us we're stupid. So
there's no titties, so we're not getting millions and nothing.
Okay, well, I mean, that can be remedied right now.
Look, I can show you my appendix scar if you want to see it.
Oh shit, yeah, we got to talk about that later. Okay, well, thank you everyone. This has been another episode of Cinematic Suffering, biddies and chunkies.
Bits and chunks, y'all. Thanks for hanging in there. Give it a like. I mean, give it a thumbs down. I don't care what you do. I don't care.
If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, please feel free to give us a 5-star review or a 1-star, I guess, for sure. Why not?
Why not? Do it. Do it.
Do it. We dare you.
Coward.
So until next time, guys, thank you. Have a great night, day, week, wherever you're at. Bye.
Peace out.